Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Hazmat Guys Nation Roundtable. This is a multimedia platform bringing hazmat response information and training tips from hazmat members around the globe. I'm Bobby Salvesen, and I'll be acting tonight as the host, and I am joined by my two cohorts, Phil Ambrose and Kosh. You know what? I'm kind of reluctant to keep calling you Kosh because people are going to say, "Who's that? Does Kosh even?" He's like Madonna or Prince.
You know, it is. It's funny because that's what they call me. They call me Kosh, Luke Kosh, whatever, because nobody can pronounce my damn last name. I don't know why. It's not hard. Yeah, Kosh.
Like Kosh.
I've answered to a lot worse, so it's okay. It's all good.
What's been going on?
Johnny Cash.
Yeah. Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
That's
not much, man. Just working. I've been out doing some haz simming around the country and back at shift for a couple weeks before we hit Baltimore, and some more haz sim training, and that's my life, my story.
Yeah.
And I
jet setting
Utah.
G4.
Utah. Yep, enter Utah. And then I got the youngest one graduating high school tomorrow, so we're busy at the Kosh household. Yeah.
I took the entire 4 days over the weekend and had a nice time. Did a lot of swimming. I was just telling Todd on the side, I swam out Saturday and somebody said, "Hey, we just saw a shark." I'm like, "Oh, what kind?" "Looked like a great white." "Yeah, where?" "Right where you are." "Yeah, all right." He was here. He's not here now. And I still have my legs. Been busy, just like everybody else. Got to go to a neat training the other day. If we had time, I'll talk about it. And yeah, looking forward to Baltimore. We're doing a Baltimore-Boston. I think Bob's also going to Connecticut whirlwind trip, and that Saturday night. What day is that? Saturday.
Should be the 18th.
The 18th. That night, if you're not going to, I think they're doing a baseball game or something Friday night, but we'll be going out. But
yeah, we'll let everybody know where.
Cool.
Maybe.
Yeah.
You know, it's actually funny. We were just put in touch with, and I probably shouldn't even be dropping this out, but I don't know if you guys know. You ever hear of Jesse Taylor? All right. This guy is nuts. He runs all of these explosive schools all over the country, and he does like everything from peroxide schools, and he is the real deal. The guy is nuts. He's certifiable, just crazy. But he is a cool dude. He has a school. Where the hell is it? In like Arizona or something like that. He has schools. FDNY goes to him all the time. And he just put up like 8 different schools all around the country in Texas, and maybe it's Texas. I could be wrong, but if you get a chance, we're going to be bringing him on the podcast to talk about peroxide. He was on Breaking Bad. Indeed, he was. He's the real deal. He's nuts. He came to our firehouse in the city, and they were trying to get him to build a aluminum bomb, like the aluminum shaving bomb. And one of the captains, or one of the guys, wanted them to build it, and he was going to do it. He sent it to the store to go get the stuff. But luckily, somebody came to the sentence before because he was going to do it. Nuts. But anyway, if you get to see, you look him up, Jesse Taylor. Maybe I'll throw his thing up in the middle too. Jesse Taylor, he's got schools. They are not very pricey, and I'm not getting any kickback or anything for this, but he's a good dude, and he's got a lot of crazy knowledge he throws out at so check out that. That's pretty cool stuff. Yeah, he made the Murky. Yeah, he's nuts. He was on Mythbusters. Yeah, he's the real deal. So
cool.
Check him out. But today we're on a mishmash of recent things, I think, right? I mean, kind of like you had a interesting CO one. California. It was what? They heard it was going to rain. That was a big one, right? It was going to possibly rain. No, not really. It was a joke. It was a fool's thing that was left over. And I have a couple of them. Mike was not going to be able to make it here tonight, but I had a couple of good ones in the city that I like to bring out here. So we could talk about that.
What
do you want to start with?
This? I'll start with the CO stuff real quick. It's
I
gonna
want
be
to hear
short
about
and sweet
that.
anyway.
You didn't even tell us.
We've had we talked about CO responses in emergencies. One of the earlier episodes, I don't remember which one it was, but one of the things we don't consider when we go to these calls for check the well-being or somebody feeling weak or general weakness or whatever is that it could be a CO call. An interesting call we had the other day was just that somebody had a headache. They sent us, the engine was out, and I was next up out of the house, but also being a hazmat truck company, so we had a meter. The person, when we got there, she was standing on the balcony of the apartment complex, said she'd been in her place for 4 or 5 hours cooking. All right, so that tells me maybe she might have some kind of gas appliances or giving her a headache and so on and so forth. When we went up to the door, we just cracked the door open, and my multi-array was going off. It was already alarming for CO with the door just cracked, and she'd been in there for several hours. So VOC started shooting up. So we called for Hazmat 1 that has a little bit more defined equipment, FIDs and whatnot. But before I get into how we ran the call, the big trend across the country right now is for first responders to get a CO single sensor CO detector to attach to a life pack monitor, a BLS bag, whatever. And in this instance, had it not been us coming, had it been the engine company or rescue company, which is our ambulance, if you will, that would have been a good situation. As soon as they opened the door, it would have alarmed. So for our department that's looking at that actually is now something that call and a couple others are actually starting to drive it. So basically from that first engine company arriving on the scene, or that first truck company, first unit, basically, we've said this in a lot of shows, make sure you slow up just a little bit and just don't run right in there, especially if you get the person's complaining of a headache, person feels dizzy, general weakness, something like that. You might be going into something that is, in this instance, CO. So we obviously put on our SCBA. We went in there and checked it out a little bit further, and we took in the PID FID that we have as well. And as soon as we started getting towards the oven, which was the stove, which was gas fed, CO jacked up to 78 parts per million on the CO, and the VOC went up to 1,245 parts per million. When we put it behind and spray, you know what? The best tool in the world, a spray bottle of soapy water. Yeah.
Yeah, they call it, depending where you go, but Pueblo, they call it Snoop.
It's awesome. When we put it on our trucks, everybody's like, what do we need this? So, well, we can use it for extrications on the Sawzall and, for this kind of thing. So we pulled the stove back, and most stoves have a little quarter turn valve that shuts it off. This didn't. And it was a square nut on the line that we thought, okay, maybe it's a quarter turn like the valve would be. So we checked it, kept checking with our instrumentation, still wasn't working. Then we figured, well, maybe it's something you got to turn all the way off, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Still wasn't working. So what we ended up finding out was that shutoff was actually broke. And she did have a little leak behind floors above. Everybody remember natural gas rises. We had readings in the apartments 2 floors above. Obviously not as high as the suspect apartment, but it was still of a significant level that we had to ventilate those upper apartments as well. And it was a good 20 or 30 minutes of ventilation before, obviously with the gas turned off, that we got it shut down. But what was also cool about it, if there's such a thing, is we have the rainbow sensor on our life pack. And that's it reads met hemoglobin. So once you put your finger on, almost like the pulse ox, and the normal is 10. She was at 15. So once we got her some O2 and they were checking her out a little bit more, her level started coming back down, and she was good to go. She still went to the hospital, recommended her to go to the hospital, get some blood gases done on her or whatnot. But she'd been in there for hours, and if it hadn't been for her being awake and having a headache, if she would have just went to bed, there could have been something worse. So, and then it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Simple call, but it escalated from the person who's got a headache to, hey, we've got a gas leak in 4 apartments, just from a simple little tiny hole in the flex tubing.
I want to pause for 1 second because I threw it in the group and it's not going to come up on the podcast or the YouTube. But we were talking about soapy water defined as a leak detector. But right off the top of my head, there's one situation that's out there that comes off the top. When you would not use soapy water, you would use something you would never think to use to leak detect in this situation. What's the situation? What would you use? And I'll come back to that at the end of the show. Don't let me forget that. I'm gonna tease it a little bit to the end of the show, but
the pool guys
let's see what comes up in the
that's
comment
what the pool guys use.
That's interesting. Yeah. So but like we had one where we had that initial general malaise. This happened maybe 6-7 years ago in New York City. We had the guy came in, he was general malaise, of foreign descent, we'll say, and he
general malaise with the Malaysian army.
We went there, and
I love those calls.
Of the Malaysian army, and when we went there, we have dosimeters that we carry as well. So EMS carries, one of the 2 medics carry dosimeters, and they were hitting hits for radiation. I don't remember exactly what the specifics of it, what the type, but it turned out that the guy was in the process of acquiring dirty bomb materials, and he was irradiated. So it presented like a CO, a general malaise, nothing, and that's pretty much what it was. It was something odd like that. So would those standard BLS meters, or even the 4G, who goes in to a smells and bells with a radiation meter? Like,
and what were
very, very
right? Do you remember the isotopes, Bob?
So.
Bobby?
I don't. It was a while ago. I want to say he was breaking open. It might have been a Americium from smoke detectors. I want to say he got like a pallet of smoke detectors. He was in the process of breaking them open, but it was something silly like that. But that's a great call.
And
so,
one last little CO incident was somebody unfortunately committed suicide with the old charcoal grill in the bathroom, sealed it up, sealed the doors and window, the vents in the bathroom. Again, checked the well-being, call for the brother. The girlfriend hadn't heard from him. Got a hold of the brother. The brother went in, and when they opened up the bathroom door, they found him. The guy was deceased in the bathtub. But what was odd about that one is they were 400 parts per million, and that guy ran in. Obviously it's colorless, odorless. He had no idea. But when the hazmat guys got there, he was over 400 parts per million, and this was like probably an hour or 2 after he had passed away. So they still had way high readings for a long period of time in a quasi sealed up bathroom. So again, that was check the well-being call that the first engine and rescue showed up to. They didn't have any meters, but when the guy had come out, he explained to the crews what he saw inside, and they had enough heads up to not go in until they put on their SCBA and did whatever it is they had to do. So 2 kind of little simple calls, but just to get people thinking, hey, it's may not be that everyday thing that we're all so used to. That's where they say that complacency kills. So
nice.
I'm done. I'm done. That's right there. That's it. That's all I got. Show's over. See y'all tomorrow.
Show's over.
Mic drop. You just. I love it. What do we got? Like, even. Well, what about Baltimore? I know we're kind of skipping around, but Phil, what do you got for Baltimore? I know
we kept talking about what's going on in Baltimore. Oh, yeah, I had something I was going to throw in because we were doing a mishmash. Last week we were talking about. Anybody remember?
Baltimore.
No, but last week's show we were talking about the vault fires. So we actually and we were talking about the vault fires.
Somebody just talked about when it blew up. Didn't somebody just put something up about that?
Yeah. So anyways, I here my moment. Hey Jason, I'm glad Todd's here. If people hear us talking about Todd Burton from San Diego County, he double checks all our math. He's the smartest hazmat guy I know. Matt, good to see you. Ryan, hope you got my donation. And so Nick, who's on here now, had thrown it out there, and I was looking at the article he sent because to speak in his place. Last week's roundtable, just listened to it on the podcast, which of course is the Hazmat Guys podcast, Bobby and Mike. All these shows are replayed onto a podcast as well as all their podcasts. They had an incident in their downtown area a few years back. And if you remember last week, we were talking about that somewhat viral video of the explosion in where, Bob? St. Petersburg?
St. Petersburg, yeah.
And I thought this was kind of interesting because two things I learned recently. So we were able to get the power shut down and then use a high expansion foam operation to put out the transformer and all the other stuff that was burning with it. Now, of course, I'm sure the power companies don't really like that operation, but let's face it, it failed and we need to deal with the public. I'm ad-libbing. I have not used the high expansion foam operation since, but it did work well for the situation. Thanks for a great roundtable. Phil is the best. Oh, wait, I added that part. I have fun listening to you guys. I thought that was pretty cool because I learned something also new that I was going to ask you about, Bobby, is I don't believe I have any in our town, which has got, we got buildings that are 100 years old, but nothing like on the East Coast. But I know City of Pasadena has some areas in their downtown where they have a hole in the sidewalk, or actually they have a brass fitting in the sidewalk that says for fire department use, and you remove it, and it's a hole to fit the nozzle in to do below grade fires. And I did not know that until I learned it from a buddy of mine. And I hadn't seen one. I wondered if you'd seen them in New York, and it made me think of it when we were talking about the high expansion foam with vault fire.
No, I cannot say I've ever seen that. It would be very smart. They did have huge holes in the ground. I mean, they have like a million different caps. Like each cap there's slotted, there's vented, there's crossed, there's hole. There's a million different types, but we don't have anything. I gotta say, I saw that video and it exploded, and I've probably seen that in my career 10 times, like it blow up. And it throws those manhole covers. Those things are heavy. Those are no joke. They're a couple 100 pounds. I've seen them flip a couple 100 feet in the air. Maybe not a couple 100, but close to 100 feet in the air. Either way, it's death from above. And there's actually a part in our books, our regulations and stuff that say if it blows, you stand still and get small, because moving targets are easier to hit as far as that. I should post that because there is something in there in at least the FDNY about dealing with those exploding manhole covers. But I've seen that, and it's just when that ignition source hits the right concentration. We actually had one in a burning building. It was, I'm going to say, it was probably like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that we had, it was like the perfect storm. There was a subway that was outside the window. It was like an L train, so it was above the ground, and it was like 115 degrees in New York City. That's a dry heat. It's never a dry heat, ever. So like 115 it was raining. The subway was like shooting sparks down, and the manhole blew up, and it was like 3 million% in the basement. It was some absurd number where it was so thick you could lean against the CO. And I remember they had to take everybody's gear on the second dual assignment. That's like 150 guys' gear had to be condemned. Right there.
Wow.
It was like garbage. everything out. So, yeah, it was a little weird. These things happen.
That's what I had. That's what I had to share.
But
well, right. And you just did ammonia training, right, Phil?
Lancaster, Pennsylvania, just had another ammonia thing, and we were just talking about that. I think before the recording started, it seems like there's been an uptick in ammonia calls. I think we all would agree. It just seems like it, unless we're all just looking at the same alerts. But I went to, I was going to just kind of paraphrase it. It was very much an industry-sponsored ammonia training, which was great because they use real product, which I'm a fan of. I mean, the nice thing about the HAZSTEM is we get people in the same frame of mind without using real product. But if you have an opportunity to use it safely, you should. And in this case, one of the things they did to us and put us in a, for lack of a better word, a chamber that they pumped up with ammonia gas. And I took pictures and video, but we went up to well above what is in the limits as your IDLH and stood there and breathed it. They've got quite the industry push to try to change some of the regs based on, I'm still alive to talk about it, but I'm also the guy that ate radioactive tacos to make money. But yeah, then we went through a couple of different ways, and I don't know where the classes. I could find out more information on it. I was going to hook the guy up in charge to with you, Bobby, for maybe some podcast stuff. But we did a few evolutions, some on air where we used salvage covers, or you might call a tarp, to say cover a leak and or redirect it. We used and blowers. Have you ever done that for real? I've done it for training.
And you know what the thing is? They show it in training. Oh, you use like the standard Home Depot or Lowe's blue plastic tarp, and and you think, oh, that's not what we're really going to use. You're going to use something special, like it's bulletproof, or you can wrap a Superman in it or some shit. But it's really just that, and it works by like cooling the area around it and reducing the off gassing. It's an interesting. I can't go into it now because it's a lot, but it works. Science-wise, it works, and it's so street smart. It really takes nothing, but you need a couple of guys to get on each corner to walk it properly and drop it on top. You can't just hope two guys are going to be able to pull it up and over, because the thing's just going to flip-flop everywhere, and you got to kind of weight down the corners. But once you do it, it really does slow down the dispersal.
Yeah, what we did, one evolution is you're taking a blower. They had the new Tempest with the cone, the very directed cone. But same blower you'd use positive pressure ventilation, and you go up and you just redirect, and that'll help you in a rescue. And then with the tarp, we took 6-foot hooks on the front, the leading edge, but then a rope on all four corners, and then carefully placed. And you're obviously not containing the gas, but I was kind of sold on the techniques to redirect. If you had the right size leak that was, and you had a potential imminent rescue, and then I was able to stand around with my BA on, and I think my meter got up to about 4,000 ppm, and I was happy. I've got a new one of the test mask hoods for Honeywell that's got the it's a better seal for the cancer protection, and I kind of intentionally got my head in there, and it was good. It was good training, but I'd like to get more info on it and get them on, either on here or on the podcast, because I'm not sure how much they do outside of California. But if they do, I'd recommend it. It was a good class.
Nice. Awesome. I got you know what? I got two that I want to bring up. One is really, it sounded cool, but it actually kind of was like a fizzle. But the one we just had yesterday was really good. I want to get to that second. We had in Manhattan, we had what would be like a Home Depot underneath the railroad trestle. See, New York City is going through a rejuvenation of hipsters, which are my favorite people. I'm going to probably get in trouble for saying this, but we drive around, we play Homeless a Hipster, because you really can't tell a difference.
iPhone. That's how you tell iPhone, right?
Well, not even, dude. Let me tell you, there's homeless people with awesome iPhones, but there's you get, and we have a whole list of things like if they have a beard, you get 1 point. If they have a Starbucks, you get 2 points. So there's a whole list of things that we play with homeless to hipster. That's fantastic. If anybody wants that, I will forward them that. But it's fantastic. But anyway, what these they wanted to do was they wanted to have a garden center underneath a 6, I think it was a 6 or maybe it was a 4-track railroad trestle that basically was the choke point between Manhattan and the Bronx. It's a big thoroughfare. Everything runs on this trestle, and they had a fire. And it was a big fire. It was like a 4th alarm fire for New York City. That's a big fire. That you're talking about a couple of hundred firemen, probably dozens and dozens of rigs, multiple master stream operations because the steel got so hot it started to warp, and with a train, a deflection of 1/4 of an inch could have a catastrophic effect. So, what we were there for in hazmat was that there was multiple tanks of propane, and anything from 20-pounders to 100-pounders to actually 1/4 tons, which I've never actually seen. I've heard of them, not a full ton, but a 1/4 ton. I've seen 100-pounders next to houses, but these were 250s that were housed and legally allowed to be underneath the trestle, which I cannot believe that somebody set up like a shanty town Home Depot and was allowed to operate because of the political clout of the clientele that were coming there.
That's crazy.
It was very interesting. I mean, it was really nothing as far as hazmat. There was no leaks. There was minimal exposure to the propane, but we went up there with a snoop, with a soapy water. We sprayed them all down. We used our TIFs, which are just they're just what the hell are they? Metal oxide sensors, the MOS sensors. They're very, 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 very sensitive to flammable gases at minute, like single part per million levels. And we just gave a quick sweep over them. There was nothing, and that was it. We basically took up and we went out. But last night, was it last night? Yeah, it was last night. It was actually last night. We had an interesting run. Me and Mike had a run to Brooklyn. And I don't know, do you guys have compressed natural gas buses yet?
Yes. Matter of fact, we have a fill station right around the corner from my firehouse.
We have them all over the place. We have them in the county I live in. We have them all over New York City. They are very common. We've gone and done trainings on these. If you haven't seen them, they basically look like big SCBA cylinders with multiple outputs on top. But this one was different. When we went to we went to Sunset Park, Brooklyn, which is a very nice area. But the guy bought almost like a 15-passenger white van that looked like a government van, like one of those government-issued van kind of things, nondescript, that kind of stuff. But they had 2 of these cylinders installed in it. They were 7-foot cylinders. They were, they were exactly 73 inches long by 15 diameter. The big cylinder, steel, not even fiberglass. So what was happened was there was a leak of the frangible disc that released in the head, and there's 3,600 pounds in it. So the question came up: stop it. The problem is you can't stop it. First off, the threads aren't normal, and second off, it's a hexagonal head. So I'm going to throw it out at you. I'm putting you on your heels. We know that. I'll give you the basics. Compressed natural gas, CNG, is a toxic. It is flammable. It is lighter than air, and it is what else? That's basically it. It's just it's a pain in the ass, right? If you let it go in the street, it's going to go away on its own, right? More of a toxic for you if you get a good face full of it. But other than the flammability and the ignition point, in reality, is it really so flammable. Yeah, okay. We deal with this crap all the time, but dealing with what we're dealing with, how are you going to mitigate this? It's now, like I said, it's a big cylinder. It goes up in a high pressure configuration, like an oxygen cylinder, high pressure, thousands of pounds, and then it goes to a weird head that was like hexagonal. It had 6 faces, and each face had a female thread to it. 5 of them were filled up. 1 was blown out. It was stainless steel, and it was leaking at a good pressure. It wasn't tons of pressure. It wasn't whistling. It was coming out at a good pressure though. So, based upon what you guys have on your rigs, what are you thinking? And I'll tell you all this stuff. I mean, we went to the bottom of the outside box and eventually figured it out.
As far as stopping it, or what are you going to do?
I love it. I love the chlorine kit. I'm going to come back to the chlorine kit. Hold on to that one. Go ahead, Bobby. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, as far as a first due engine company or truck company kind of thing, I'm going to just make sure I evacuate the area. Probably put a fog line stream on it or around it somehow. Let it vent. Make sure there's no ignition sources, and unless there's an emergency,
it was like within 5 feet of the house.
What's that?
And this is a row frame. We went to go move it, but it was like it was a metric ass load of weight. I don't even know how much it weighed, but it was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds. There was like 7 guys on it. We couldn't even budge the thing. We were going to roll.
So I would try to put the fog stream between the tank and the house to make like a water curtain, if you will, to try and minimize anything going in there. While I'm doing that, I'm going to call for hazmat to do air monitoring in that structure to make sure no gas has gotten in there. Just basically let it vent and reduce any type of ignition sources. And
let me just address 2 things.
Hold the perimeter.
One guy said chlorine kit. I'll get back to that in a little. Why did it fail? They never told us. There was no indication of a frangible disc there. It's not like the thing was like blown open where you saw the flowering of the disc, whatever the hell you want to call it. There was no disc there. There was just an open port that was now leaking, and there was no shutdown valve at all.
And what was the diameter of the hole?
3/8 to 1/2 inch. And we have a great selection of plugs and caps. We took standard black pipe, we stainless steel, aluminum, brass. We even tried taking wood. We tried everything. It sounds like a valve blew off. I would not disagree with that, but there was no threading in the hole. So it was weird, but nonetheless, it's leaking. Oh, let me throw one thing out. Can I throw one more thing out? I'm going to give you a little bit more information. It seems that when we hit with the soapy water, not only was the soapy water showing obviously on the high pressure leak from the port, but it was also showing between the hexagonal manifold, if I can, and the thread point to the cylinder body. There seemed to have been an O-ring that was bulging, and it was coming out again against that. Knowing the pressure, there was stickers on the outside, and it was saying it was pressurized between 3,000 and 5,000 pounds, and I would not disagree with that. It was coming out like a freight train.
So, and with that, I would think it would vent out pretty quickly then.
All right. So it took us 35 minutes to get from Queens to Brooklyn, and we were on scene for a minimum of 35 minutes, and it was still whistling. So It was not coming out at full force. It wasn't refrigerating. If you know, it's saying it was slower than that, but it was moving a lot. Freeze wraps wasn't moving fast enough to even give you frost lines. So, what's your thoughts? What do you got? What do you got on your rig to do this? And we had to go deep. I'm going to go back to the chlorine A kit. That was one of the guy's original thoughts. The chlorine A kit chains max out at 60 inches, and this is 73.
And that thing's you guys have a coffin,
a containment
right?
vessel
way bigger than
that we can special pull in that will cap. Well, actually, you put a cylinder inside the containment vessel and it'll hold up to 5,000 psi. But the problem is the diameter was 15 and our containment vessel is 13.
And you described 6, the hexagon, and the other 5.
They have one has plug in it. One has like must have gone to like a monitoring device, electronic monitoring device. Another one went to a cap. Another one. Not all of them would. I will put pictures on it. We did take a lot of pictures, but they were all secured and with soapy water not leaking. So I'm going to lead you through it. These are the things that we started thinking about. We have cut up the boots. You know the what the hell they call them? The boots we carry, the level A boots.
Oh, like the Tinglies or the
the Thank you. Yeah. When we're done with those, we cut them up and we use them as like rubber gaskets. We keep a section of that. We keep them out. So what we'll do is we'll get pieces of hose clamp and we'll use that as almost a gasket. Well, the hose clamps that we had just were in the middle of, if you go to a 3.5 inch, it was too big. And if you went to a 3 inch, it was too small. So what we ended up doing was going with 2 inches and combining them like that. But the problem is you can't get any torque on them. They start skipping. We went with the level A kit. We went with that, and we were thinking about using nylon straps with ratchets to try to put enough pressure. But put enough pressure on a couple of 100 pounds, you need a substantial pull. Cutting PVC gloves, C-clamping them on the hole, all very good things. Hexagonal heads would allow for that because it has 2 opposite side faces that are flat. Pentagons will not allow for that, like a hydrant. At least in New York City, we have pentagon heads. What do you guys have? You have pent? All right. So I know in Louisiana, they do not. They have square heads, which
Ryan would know. Ryan could speak up on that.
The pressure was extremely high. What we ended up going with, and I'm going to cut to the chase, is that we have these poly pipe clamps. They're almost like guillotines. And it was suggested early on, why don't we put this thing on there and do it? But the reason why we didn't want to do it is because they're expensive. The chief didn't want them. And he's like, well, let's find something else. We were like, but this will take care of it. No. Let's see if we can, jam a wooden dowel in there. Or nothing was working, and it was just whistling. And then finally, when we distracted the chief away long enough, and the guy gave it a whack with the clamp, it just stopped, and everyone turned around and said, "What happened?" It just stopped. And it turned out that they not only pressed the bulging O-ring back in the spot, but they also capped it in one shot, and it took care of it, and that was the end of it. So what the whole premise of this, it wasn't a very sexy call, but it was one of those ones where you had to pull almost every box off your rig and start mixing and matching and thinking outside of the tool. You do not have the tools to handle every single thing. What are you going to do when you have a 20-pound propane cylinder that the leak is on the cylinder, on the shoulder? How are you going to stop that? Or how are you going to not maybe stop it, but what's your mitigation technique? You're going to put it underwater and burn the water? Are you going to blow it off? Are you going to put it out? Have a plan for the no plan. And,
right.
And I'll be honest with you, the A kit was, we actually suggested it, was that we were going to carry 3 lengths of 80-inch chain because you could swap them out. But the thing is that how often is something silly like this ever going to happen? We've all been to view these cylinders, but how closely have you looked at the cylinders? How closely you looked at the threading pattern? That it was a hex head. How many ports was coming out of it? How you and that was another thing, is that there was no flat end to the cylinder. It could not be kept vertical. There was a round end to it. So it would want to go horizontal. It was not meant to be vertical. So that what we can strap around the bottom as well.
Did you get any pictures of this?
I have a lot. You know what? I'm going to give it to Phil. Phil, you can put on the Nation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, send it to me or to Jason.
Yeah, and it gets a low pressure, but anything low pressure, if you wrench them down hard enough, you can make them high pressure. Because, I mean, I'm not looking to stop it. I'm looking to slow it.
Right.
And fairly certain I could have slowed that at the worst case scenario. I think I could, if I were to wrench that thing down hard enough with, maybe a little Cheeto bar, if you know what I'm saying. I would have put an extension on my wrench. I could have got that to stop. I might have sheared the gasket, yeah, but I'm not dealing with chlorine. I'm not dealing with the toxic poison. I'm dealing with, I hate to say, cute, adorable, compressed natural gas. It's kind of easy, But, guys, put that in your pipe and smoke it wherever you want to take from that. I thought that was a good one. I like that one.
I'm looking forward to the pictures. We'll put that up, and then we'll put the pictures up with this one and with the links to the podcast and stuff.
How we more of a question and answer. Maybe I'll post the questions this week, and maybe you can follow up next week with the answers.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll throw it out to the Nation.
Perfect. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, and can I just go one more thing?
Two more things, pal.
For those that I'm jogging through. I'm stressing out. We are probably going to be switching away from Blab. It's just a pain in the ass. I love the platform.
As soon as Bob actually gets on with no issues, you change the format.
I'm going to totally throw him.
I'm going to be screwed up for another half a year.
Yeah, and it's not something crazy, but we're going to Google Hangouts, and we've been investigating this, and there's so many more cool things that we can do with that. First off, we're able to use 10 seats. Now, I'm not saying we are going to be utilizing 10 seats, but it gives us the ability to have a true round table where we can have multiple people sharing their thoughts. It also cuts down on I'm the audio and visual guy, even though I'm a hand model on the side, obviously not a face model. But I don't have to do the editing for YouTube. It directly uploads to YouTube. There are very few issues because it's Google. They got it wrapped up, But the best thing is that the comment section is still going to be there. It's going to be directly embedded to whatever the hell you want. And we share. Truck goes. What is it? Engine? Truck. Who cares? Not you. Just tell them. Go ahead. Yeah. I'll catch up. We are going to be doing that. So with the Google thing, we can share screens. So if I had that picture of that CNG, I can show you live what we're talking about, and we can discuss this. So not only can we do this, but we can invite more people to get into it. And plus it's Google. Like everybody's got a Gmail account. If not, we can do that kind of stuff. So it's going to be pretty cool. I've been reading a lot about the Blab, and it's cute. If you haven't really, have you guys really hung around without watching us? It's not that great. There's a lot of people on here like, hey, want to watch me pick my nose for a half hour? It's like, oh, great. That's awesome. But we're trying to do something serious.
And bring it to another level.
Yeah. I think we're starting to get there.
Yeah.
But.
And when are you thinking we're going to be making the switch? Which, of course, we will let everybody know through all our social media outlets.
Yeah, we you know what? Give us one more week to work out the last bits. But I am relatively sure we're going to be able to do it. We're going to be putting it on the regular outlets that we do, in addition to our Google Plus. So now, if you're listening to us, I'm going to the right now. Our Google Plus name is, I think, it's THMG, like the Hazmat Guys Nation spelled out. So THMG NATION @gmail.com. If you +1 us, then you're going to get the same notifications that you do. And when we do the YouTube uploads and all the other jazz, you're going to get that as well. So by all means, go and check us out. Get on there. We will add you to the circles. And I'm kind of learning how to do it. So just get on there and have a good time. That's it.
Awesome.
That's all I got.
And I think with that, we'll be able to show pictures and screens and lots of stuff that, instead of, like you saw us do the other day, not having to take our phone and do one of these things for you to see a picture, Yeah,
what's wrong with that?
So, awesome.
So, yeah, we're going to be able to move. I'm kind of excited with that. 2 weeks conflict with Baltimore. You're right, Bob Stern. Thank you very much. Maybe the following week. I don't know what we're doing with Baltimore. Do it live at Baltimore. We might do it live at Baltimore.
Yeah. We'll have to play that by ear.
Yeah.
Jason Rogers had the total hook for the Indy thing, so I think that would be almost hard to. I don't know. We could probably get somebody to pick us up in a creeper van and do something somewhere.
No, I don't think this creeper van will be legit. I think it's a legit creeper van. We're never coming back. It's like a Blair Witch will hiding in the corner going, I'm so scared.
Oh, Louisiana boil some crawfish. Yeah, I'm down with that.
All right.
Yeah, so we'll let you guys know. We'll give everybody plenty of time and warning when we're going to shift. So
we don't even know where we're going to be. Like this for those of you who've been there, this Fells Point. There is the Inner Harbor, which is kind of beat, and then there's the power plant. That's what it is, Phil. The power plant. That's a brand new area in there. That's kind of a big area, and we're probably going to be in the power plant because that's walking distance to everything. Fells Point's really cool. It's just I don't know if it's going to be the place to go because you got to take like a water factor taxi or a regular taxi to get there. So
yeah, we'll let everybody know where we're going to be Saturday night.
All right. Well,
in Baltimore anyway.
Bob, tell me where we can find you.
HCMTLT at Twitter. And at hassim.com.
Good enough.
And in a bar. Absolutely. In a bar you can find us.
Phil,
smoking a cigar.
Would have had you. Oh, he's on mute.
Everybody likes me better that way.
It's not me this time.
It was so
Hazmat Nation. If you got something cool, send it to myself or Jason Rogers, or just send it to hazmatnation@gmail.com. And and then any Californians, Todd Burton's going to be teaching a class. They're using the HazSim. They're going to be training San Francisco Fire Department, I think the week of Baltimore or the week right before. So looking forward to seeing everybody there. Be safe.
Oh, Jason Kerr says he's going to set us up in Bmore. We'll have to talk. We have to talk. Hold on a second.
We're hoping. Yeah.
And I am Bobby Salveson. I am part of the hosting dynamic duo, the head jerks for the Hazmat Guys podcast, where if you really want to get into hazmat, not really get into hazmat, but I guess
get any on you.
Yeah, you don't want to get any on you. How's that?
Take your job home.
Well, you could listen to it on the ride in, I guess. It would be kind of, I don't know. Hey, you know what? If you want to laugh about hazmat, listen to us. That's whatever. Anyway, you can find us at thehazmatguys.com, the hazmatguys at gmail.com. You can find us at bob at hazmatguys.com. You can find us a million places. Just come on out and find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Gmail, Google Music, and etc. So that's about it. As always, we stick around afterwards to just kibitz and curse and whatnot. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.